Hello, Indy. Hello, Indigo.
Hey sister, thank you for having me. You made
You're
it
very
happen.
you're very welcome. It's really nice to get to know you. Smudging away there.
I
It
am, yeah,
it
I've just been sitting here patiently, just praying and just grounding my energy. It's been an intense day for me.
so yeah, you're just saying. I said let's just press the record button straight away and just see what happens. What's going on? Why is it intense? You're in Wales and everything. And who are you? Because we don't even know each other. We've only just met recently online, which is great. Online, as in chatting with a
Yeah,
bunch of people for an event
literally,
that we're doing.
I've spent the last hour just watching two or three of your interviews actually, just to really absorb, your energy because I haven't had enough time really to prepare. But I think, you know what, sometimes it's just in that raw, vulnerable kind of interaction we can find a lot of truth and power
Yeah.
still. But I was just watching the one you just did with Chris Edwards, talking about the event that we're both going to be on October the 18th in the Tabernacle, about sovereignty and what that means. And do you know what I've realized, Karen, is me and you are going to be coming in on that same energy. To me, sovereignty is much, it's for me, I'm a Buddhist. I've been Buddhist 10 years, and sovereignty is me revealing my Buddhahood. Sovereignty is casting off the transient version of who I am and revealing the eternal ether in me. Or we can say casting off the straw man and revealing the living flesh human. And so, but yeah, I'm actually just looking after a friend's house in Wales. But they've accidentally took the electric key to Africa with them on holiday. And do you know what? It's
Lucky,
really
lucky key, having an African holiday. How lucky for that key.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, but it's been a while since I've been around people that, to be honest, pay for their gas and electric and are part of that system. And bless the beautiful queen whose house this is. I'm just looking after it, but yeah, they took the key, and then the electric's gone, and there's no way for me to basically, pay for the electric. So
Recharge.
yes,
Yeah.
so for
Well,
about
maybe indeed that's the world's saying just, don't recharge yourself rather than plug yourself into whatever else is out there. Just take out, time out and go for a walk and stuff and thw some stones into the river or what have you.
totally,
Yeah,
yeah,
go barefoot.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about you because, as I say, we've only just met online through this meeting we had the other day about the oh God, what's it called? This
Beyond the
thing.
system.
Beyond the System at the Tabernacle Theatre in London on the 18th of October. So where are you coming from? You're a young person, which is fantastic because we need more young people to speak out with and have the awareness of what's going on. Where have you come from? I mean, your name might say a lot. Is that how you were, baptized, christened, born with, or is it something
So
you chose?
when I was 11 years old, there was a plumber in my aunt's house, and I was having a party with all my cousins. And he took me aside and he said, "You need to know that you're an indigo child." And from 11 years old, that name just stuck with me. I was born Aaron, but yeah, that's just what stuck. And people call me Indy.
Yes.
And then I kind of went on the journey of finding out what an indigo child is, or and all these
Tell
different
us.
things.
Let's tell the people that are listening to this what an indigo child is.
Well, do you know what, Tim? I try not to put too many labels on things. Indigo
Hmm.
is just my name, but I definitely recognize a truth in that there's a certain quality to different generations, and we have different keys towards the new paradigm that's being ushered in. Yeah, and the Indigos, a generation, kind of like the 80s and 90s. We're here to be we cut back the family karma. We're the black sheep. We're the ones that see the world differently quite easily. We want to invest in different things like being off grid and that kind of energy, and like we're just on it fast. And so that's kind of what, and like, briefly what an indigo child is. Um, I would go deeper. The only thing I would actually personally label myself as a Buddhist is a Bodhisattva. I definitely resonate with the idea of what a Bodhisattva is, someone that's, we're here to basically be of service, but not in like a passive way or a way where my life, like I'm here to also have the most amazing, incredible, orgasmic life and to be happy myself. But by giving and by helping and by sharing, actually I illuminate my own path. And that's kind of what a Bodhisattva is. And it really resonates with me a lot. So yeah, that's Indigo. Where I come in with this is, so Alex, who's kind of the founder of the Ascending Tribe, the person putting this on, she's basically my best friend, one of my closest people, and she's been doing this a lot longer than I have. But I've come on the journey with her, and now we're kind of like starting to co-create things together with Chris. And I'm nomadic in nature. I'm just completely, just even by having dreadlocks, it's a sign to be against the system. So my very life, I'm not in the matrix as much as I can be. And so we're building this together, and it's an honor that we're starting to, like, people that I've been looking at for years and are going to be on this stage sharing it with me as we kind of help,
Yeah.
you know?
Do you know, I got to say a couple of things here. I hate butting in when people are on a roll. You know, when we do these chit chats, as I don't call them interviews, I just call them like conversations, and they're raw, like yours, they're raw. And a couple of things when you said about what did you say? Not Buddha. You said something else. You're living a life as a
A
Buddhist
bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva. Okay, is that
Yeah.
how is that the term that a Buddhist will a Buddhist will live his life?
Yes, fundamentally.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But and you described something that I can recognize. It's and I would liken it to sort of Christmas or birthdays. So when it's Christmas or it's a birthday, as a child, we love receiving, we love to get the gift and open it and say, oh, it's for me, it's lovely. Then as we mature and get a little bit older, the pleasure we get in giving is actually much more enjoyable than receiving. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know, indigo children or whatever we want to call it, is you've missed that part. You've come straight in and you're giving, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
which
yeah,
is just which is amazing. And we need
yeah,
more young people like you, whether they're indigos or whatever they are. But I remember because I've got kids your age in their 20s, and when it's like, oh, you've got indigo children and stuff. Have I? Okay, and I've got the books and read about it, and but here's one, you know, in action, and I love it, and the fact that you're young doing this. And the other thing about your hair, I love your hair. My
thank you.
hair, my God, well, my hair does it automatically. I go to sleep and I wake up and I've got these dreadlocks, and I'm trying to brush them out, and it's as frizzy as anything. And people say, why do you have dreadlocks? I think, well, it's not really my thing. But yeah, freedom. I love it. The freedom. You don't have to, you know, brush it and comb it or plait it or
Yeah,
anything. It's
yeah.
just there.
My mum actually wants to get dreadlocks. She has hair like you, kind of like Caucasian, softer hair, and she wants to get dreadlocks. And me and my mum kind of, it's funny, we go through the same awakening at the same time. So we just started getting like, I got a tattoo on my face and on my hands, and she started doing it as well because we just started thinking like, yo, just like I'm not part of this world. So I'm just like, let me, you know, my whole life someone said, you don't get tattoos on your hands or face because, you know, like you won't get a job. Well, I don't want a job. Like, I've got like in this world anyway, you know. And I was a model, I was a catwalk model. So it's the kind of the way that I started seeing the way that everything's dark is through that avenue. I was a catwalk model until 2019, just before the pandemic. I did a campaign for Reebok Classic, and someone sneakily took a photo of my hands holding some trainers, and then they put that photo on the black taxis in
Um,
London. Yeah, and they didn't pay me for it. And I'll never forget the moment. I was standing at Morden Station in Southwest London. I didn't even have enough money to get an Uber, and a black taxi pulls up in front of me, and it was my hands. And I know them kind of jobs, they're talking about 50 grand plus
yeah.
for a black taxi job. And that was the end of my career. I'd finally said, you know what, I'm done. You know, I've seen so much darkness. I've seen the human trafficking, the unalive. I've seen too much of it. That was kind of when I then shifted just before the pandemic, and then 2020 came. One of the biggest gifts and shifts as we've moved into the age of Aquarius, or whatever you want to call it. We are moving into a whole new age, and that was one of the big parts. You know, Agenda 21. And I basically just started speaking out. George Floyd died, and I could see it was all a manipulation. I could see that they were weaponizing Black trauma in order to keep us going around. They want us in
Yeah.
duality. They don't want us to rise above the duality. So they're doing that right now so much with the migrants and all of this and that. And it just became so clear to me, like crystal clear, that I am here to be a voice and to kind of navigate what's happening and to kind of decode it. Like Charlie Kirk died, and it's like, let's decode this as quickly as possible. Like, that's just where my brain goes. And so, yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I was watching one of your videos yesterday or this weekend. I've been in the car a lot this week, 4 hour journey up, 4 hour journey back. And this is an interesting thing. This is what is interesting. I had a meeting with some people that have got some great ideas about setting some community councils up, which I think is a fantastic way forward. And as I was driving, a colleague, let's say a friend, a colleague contacted me and said, "Oh, have you got Matt Letizier's number? Because I'd love him to come and talk at an event." And I said, "Oh God, I'll have a look." I said, "I haven't spoken to Matt for a couple of years. He was on my Wise Women show a couple of years ago. I've never met him in the flesh. I'll have a look." And as I got to traffic light, I had a look and I said, "Oh, yes, I have." So I just left him a voicemail saying, "Hi, Matt. Somebody wants to, you know, have you talk. Is that possible? Can I share your number?" I would never give out numbers unless I've got permission. So he voicemailed me back, "Yeah, not a problem. I'm not available that date, but just pass my number." So I did that and carried on driving, went to the event, had the meeting, got up, and then all the people were coming. I said, what are all these people coming in for? They said, "Oh, we've got another meeting. We've got a presentation." I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Who is it?" And they said, "Matt Letitia." I thought, oh my goodness me. So, you know, and I went up to him and hugged him, and I just explained the story. And it puts a smile on your face because, you know, these are signposts that the synchronicity, as Carl Jung would call them, that there's, they're not coincidences. These are signposts to say, look, you're on the right path here. Keep going, because quite often we don't want to keep going because it's exhausting.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
not
yeah.
everybody needs to stand up and do something, and people are doing stuff, but most of them are just pressing buttons on the keyboard saying like, I don't like, or put in the comments, where we really need a bit more action. And I'm not talking about going to protests and stuff like that. I mean, it's actually coming together and creating community. Can I
Yeah.
just go back? So you mentioned the George Floyd thing, which was, yeah, it was for most of us. It was like, oh God, this is such a, a red flag. Now, this other thing that's just happened, the bloke, I won't say his name, you've already said him, because I don't want to get chucked off, because the last video I did with Tess Laurie, great video, got chucked off because of what she was talking about. So I've been mindful of what I'm saying. And I can't upload this until next week anyway. I've had I'm on the naughty stare for a week.
Well, I can,
And
so we'll
yeah,
attack it
you
from
can
my
do it.
angle.
Yeah, good, you can do it. But so the bloke that's just been the very nice guy, from what I didn't even know who he was until I realised everybody saying, "Oh, this guy's been shot in the neck," and and he's a real do-gooder and everything. Now I'm seeing some people saying that wasn't the case, like the George Floyd thing. He
Yeah.
hasn't been shot in the neck. It's all staged again to create more divide and conquer. What do you think? What's going on here? And again,
Uh,
this is just our opinions, isn't it?
yeah,
Nobody's
yeah.
actually
This is
got the proof.
just,
Yeah, we must just say that this is just us having a chat about it.
and that's the beauty of a heart-to-heart dialogue. When there's respect, yeah,
Yeah.
you can just share your opinions. As soon as people get
Yeah.
uncomfortable, because I'll just share my truth. So first and
Yeah. Free
foremost,
speech.
it's exactly like the George Floyd situation. It's a false flag. This person that's just been unalived in America, so connected to the president. Just before he passed, literally before the shot happened, there was an airplane that arrived half an hour before he passed, and then just after, and then went away again after he was unalived, and it was a private jet that hadn't flown anywhere in 2025 until that day. Also, when he was shot, there was a ring on his finger, and then the moment he got shot, it went to another finger. So we're potentially talking about deeply advanced AI, and at this point.
Mm.
Um, and it's also like when JFK got shot, when all these years we're still like just like
Yeah.
talking about it. Now it's happened, and within 2-3 days, there's so much undeniable proof at this point that there's something we need to like question what's just happened. And then obviously it was just before the march, October the 13th in the UK, which suddenly, you got even Elon Musk at that, which is like a
Yeah.
transhuman kind of person speaking on it, and then you got Tommy speaking about how, the man that's just passed away in America, like we should honor him. We need to be like him. He was a voice of the generation. In my opinion, he was an actor who's supposed to be like a false indigo. They want people like a false indigo. So everyone's looking to him. And and me personally as well, I'm not a Christian. So when everything's too Christian and religious, it's a denser vibration than the heart chakra, moving up into spiritual kind of conversation. So this man was just here to basically spark more division, more duality, and more right wing, left wing, and in my
Yeah.
opinion, to eventually bring about what's called a coup d'état, which is an internal civil war. They want
Yeah.
2 to 3 billion people. I only believe there's about 2 to 3 billion people on this planet. Allegedly, Dave taught me that, and it's really stuck. They want 2 to 3 billion people on this planet unaliving each other because they can't themselves. And the idea of nuclear weapons, in my opinion, is the biggest psyop. Get everyone on the top of the planet to be so petrified about this thing, which is absolutely scary. Well, they don't realize that the new lamppost outside your house is affecting your mental health. It's controlling you. China can hack it. Like the secret weapons, which are right in front of us, the propaganda and EastEnders.
Yeah.
People don't realize these weapons, which are right here, and they're so scared of these things like nuclear weapons. So
Well, what about these things? These things that we can't live without. I mean,
the Black
hopefully
Mirror.
yeah. And we've all got them in our pocket or down our bra or whatever. Oh my God, I've lost it. Where is it? Because we've got hooked. Our life is on these damn things, and I live very happily without them. But now, I obviously I depend on them, but just take a picture or just leave a message. It's just a constant, a big
Yeah,
weapon. Yeah,
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 yeah. And
yeah.
I grew up just at the tail end of this scary thing with the nuclear. I remember reading books or like cartoon books, like what are you going to do when the bomb comes? I thought, oh, you've got to hide under a table and stuff like that. And we all like as a kid just expecting it. I mean, how old? I'm 62 now, so as I said, I was at the tail end of it, but it was still floating around. And so it's really scary how they can manipulate us through media, through TV, through education in quotation marks, the whole lot. And I also remember watching all the cowboy films with my family as a kid, and always thinking the Americans are going to come, you know, they bring in the cavalry, they're going to come and rescue us and stuff like this. And when I'd have these fears as a child, like, oh my God, we're going to be at war, but oh, the Americans will come and save us. You
Yeah.
know, because that's what was being put in here until something happens and you think, hang on, nah, I'm not having any of this. This isn't right. But
Yeah.
it's got to take something for every individual to trigger them or to wake them up. Something has to happen to we cannot we can tell people till we're blue in the face, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
this is what's happening, but they're not going to have it. They've got these bloody blinkers on, the majority, and some, you know, they have to take these blinkers off themselves. Take the horse
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
but you can't force them. And there's, I mean, what are your mates like? You know, being a young person, have you got a lot of mates that know what's going on?
Do you know what? I'm very lucky. Just the nature of who I am. I've been around a lot of kind of spiritual communities and off-grid communities for a long time now. So I have a great network, but we're all around the world. My physical human friends, like friends from school, there's two that I can actually say that I like. They're with me and they're behind me and they're backing. You know, I've got friends, and it breaks my heart truly that I've got, you know, so close to me, and I'm seeing them on Instagram uploading photos of their children and showing the world. First of all, disgusted that you would do this. You're just like, you have no idea how, you know, I've got AI applications which can take a photo of anyone and put it into any situation. I just can't, like, the disrespect for your children. That's the first thing. But anyway, they're having their children, right? And they've followed me for years. They know what I'm about. They know I talk about the straw man. I've spoken to them and shown them irrefutable proof that your child becomes a slave. It's considered dead and lost at sea after 7 years old by the system, maritime law. All of the and so they know this, but then it's just easier to acquiesce. They've just met this girl and just like, oh, let's just go into the hospital. Let's just jab it with a K vitamin because, you know, Indigo is just some guy on YouTube, you know.
Yeah.
And it's it breaks my heart because it's like, this is what I'm hoping to talk about on October the 18th. Sovereignty is dignity to me, to actually say, do you know what, I'm gonna, even if it's difficult, I'm going to do what's the right thing. And so if I have no children, but when I have a child, I can't wait to meet the person I'll have the child with, and I'll just have like a doula and me in that room, and that's it. Like, no registration. When you know that when you register your child to the system, you're now the parent, a pair that rent the child back from the government. It's just so satanic and dark in nature that when I see friends that know all of this, but then, you know, I guess you would say they're more 3D. I don't like to labels again, but to not even inquire or to ask me, oh, bro, like, all that stuff, I'm about to have a child, is because it's easier just to have cognitive dissonance. And I feel so alone because I have my cognitive dissonance doesn't even exist in my brain, that I'm just like, where's the dignity? Where's the warriors? Where's the empowered men? Which is, there's hardly any, by the way. They're out there, but in my generation, I keep trying to find men that inspire me and that I love, and then something happens and then they talk about cheating on their girlfriend on a weekend or something. I'm just like,
I know.
don't you
Yeah. Yeah.
understand what cause and effect is? You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's really frustrating, but I guess so many people are in fear because again, what they've done, you know, to us, how they've educate again in quotation marks, but the stuff that they've indoctrinated through us, and it's very, very clever because it's not just happened overnight. You know, this has gone on for a long time, and I think it is the biggest battle. It's a spiritual war we're at, and I think it's the
yeah,
biggest one of all time. I don't know about Atlanta or Babylon. I don't know if I was there. Maybe I don't know. I can't remember. But this is massive, and I think this is the battle of all battles. To be honest,
I agree. I
and
agree. This
yeah,
is it.
this is it, and that's why I think it's amazing that we're here. You and I are having this conversation, and technology is amazing because you're in Wales, I'm down in Sussex, and if there wasn't this technology, we couldn't be having this conversation, which is amazing. So it
Yeah,
has really served its purpose, and there is a place for it. It's like you have a dog, isn't it? Dogs can be really well behaved, or they can be naughty. It depends on the owner. Same as a child, they can be well behaved or naughty. It depends on the person that's teaching them. So it's down to us. And again, going back to the sovereignty issue, it's taking responsibility for ourselves and not passing that on to anybody,
yeah.
absolutely anybody. And that's why it's amazing that you're a young man, you know, that has this truth. And I don't know, how old were you? Did you say, or did you, you haven't said when you actually started realizing, hang on, the world is not what they have told us.
So I'm 32 now. My first ever spark was Neil Donald Walsh, Conversation of God.
Yeah.
Yeah. and I can't, again, I think it must have been before I was 11, I think. It was, but I was very young, and my uncle bought it for my mum, and then he bought me the child version, and I read the child version in it. I'm someone that reads a lot. I think that's another thing which makes me slightly different to many of my friends. My mum, from young, always just made me read. So I go through, even now, about 4 books a month. Even now, I'm in Wales. I'm just, you don't know if you can see them in the background, but there's just
Yeah,
always
yeah, you've
stacks
got
of
them
books.
there.
You know,
Yeah,
like when I went to India, and I was like, the heaviest thing in my suitcase was books, and everyone's saying,
yeah.
why didn't you take a Kindle? But it's just, my soul just doesn't vibrate in
No,
that.
books, 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 paper, something tangible. I know it's something you could write down. I mean, I still have a good old fashioned Filofax.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think I got that when
exactly.
I was 25. So, and I just love it. It's hard. So I think, why can't I go and put everything on a calendar? But I just love paper, something tangible, and pens, and I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
books. It's so important
And
to
you
have
become so
books.
powerful in a blackout. Suddenly you've got a whole library
Yes.
here and all the knowledge, and that's one thing. I don't really have many belongings, but I have suitcases of books all dotted around the United Kingdom in friends' houses. Just like, if the blackouts do come, I'll be the new Alexandra Library, for sure. That's But yeah, it was Neil Donald Walsh, and the idea that I'm one flame, but we're all flames, and we all make the sun. That kind of like we're one drop in the ocean. That was like from very young. That suddenly just shifted
Mm,
everything, and also I think because I'm mixed race, I'm black
mm.
and white. I didn't. It wasn't until I started, I guess, getting older, I didn't even realize that my dad was black or white. It was just they were just humans. And then you
Yeah.
suddenly start to realize, of course, when you get older. So it was a beautiful introduction. It was a perfect incarnation to come into being a mixed race person. My mum's my mom's my best friend, and she's always just said to me, Indigo, go out into the world and find whatever religion or faith you want to find, but do it properly and make sure it works. Yeah, don't get lost in the doctrine. Does it
Yeah.
actually work? Where's the actual proof? So when I chant, so the last week I've chanted Nam Myo Horenge Kyo from 5:30 to 8:30 in the morning. Nam Myo Horenge Kyo. You may have heard of it before.
Yeah.
After a lifetime of practicing and doing Om chanting and doing Hindu things and just so many different practices, when I finally chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, the actual proof was undeniable. The shifts were just insane, so that's when I really realized, okay. But I became a Buddhist at, like, 21. So that was a long time after I started reading. But you can imagine, in between that time, I was reading books about the power of your subconscious mind, all of these kind of things. And while everyone else is playing FIFA and Call of
Yeah.
Duty and Xbox, I was
Yeah.
just, if I was like smoking in the
Fantastic.
corner and reading loads of books, and that was
Yeah.
my life. And so,
Do you
and that
know,
led me.
I remember reading a book. God, I think I was in I was a teenager. I can't remember how old, 16, 17. And I can't remember what it's called. Well, I can. And I think it was Dr. Wayne Dyer. It's called Pull Your Own Strings. I think that was it, or Your Erroneous Zones. One of those. And that changed my life. Then I went off to volunteer in a kibbutz in Israel. But that was all about being sovereign,
Oh,
in today's terminology. It was about, if somebody says something to you that you don't like, if
yeah,
you get upset, that's your choice. You're putting your
yeah,
own strings. If they say something you don't like, fine. If you don't like me, that's not my problem.
yeah,
If
yeah,
if you say whatever you want, but it's not my problem. So that was such a powerful message to me that I've kind of taken through my life. Pull your own strings. Whatever somebody says to you, it doesn't matter, because that's their issue. And I
yeah, yeah,
think,
yeah,
like you say, reading these books, like, Neil Donald Walsh and Wayne Dyer, there's been so many of them over the years, and I've got bookshelves of them as well. I haven't read them all. I just like collecting them, or
yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
shoving them under my pillow and get the information energetically. But yeah, there's a lot of sense. And again, not everything. I'm not saying they're all correct, but you have to discern. You have to take out the bits that resonate with you, and live your life accordingly.
yeah, 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 yeah. There's
Mm.
a lot of information out there. I have a mentor as well. It's another thing I try and tell young people. Always try and have a mentor in life. A life mentor. My mentor, it's not someone I've never met and I'll never will meet. He's passed away. But when you have an example of someone who's a shining example of what you're trying to be. So this man is called Daisaku Ikeda. He was the third president of the Soka Gakkai, which is an organization which protects Nam-myoho Renge Kyo and true Buddhism, because there's many false Buddhisms, like the Dalai Lama. I'll say it boldly. He's a nasty person who's involved with children and all of this kind of stuff. They're put
Yes.
there to take you away from true Buddhism,
Yes.
because true Buddhism has nothing to do with Shakyamuni. The guy that everyone goes into TK Maxx and they get the head with all the snails on and stuff. Shakyamuni never once, just like Jesus, like Muhammad, Joshua, whatever, never said, create a religion and start praying to me. Never. He said, attain the same life state that I have and be like me. And that's what Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is. It is the ether. It is, I guess for me, it's like plugging directly into the Wi-Fi box, and it is. So, instead of praying passively, Jesus, come save us, or anyone waiting, that's why the QAnon, I don't know if you remember, was an amazing psyop because it was 95% truth. It was delicious. It was amazing. It was mind blowing. And then suddenly we're going to have to wait passively for some external savior.
Yeah,
And people are still waiting. They literally.
No, they are. And I have people that are, awake, and they still are really following the Q movement. And people actually that are quite seriously involved in this freedom movement, organizing certain groups and what have you, making a dent into what's happening and what's coming our way, but they still are standing by, Q and the generals and Mr. Trump. And I'm still in two minds now. From what they've told me, I'm thinking maybe, but I don't think so. It's and then at the end of the day, does it matter? Because being a real sovereign, none of it actually matters, because it's really how we live our lives from cradle to grave, isn't it? It's that have we been a good person? Are we living through kindness and compassion? That's the main thing. All this stuff is maybe triggering us. How do we act? How do we respond? How do we treat our brothers and sisters through all this stuff that is happening? Does any of it matter? No, it doesn't, because this is just a little bit of us. This is just our consciousness having that experience in a physical being, and it's a great experience. Life is wonderful, but challenging.
Yes. There's one thing I know for sure is that the only thing we can change is ourselves. Yes. And there's a concept called Esho Funi, which means the self and the environment, the oneness of the self and the environment. And when you like I just said, for the last 4 days, I've decided, because I'm going through some challenges right now, let me wake up and just hit life with my prayer, and really chant. So I chant it for 3 hours with members all across the world. And my environment literally has transformed. Everything feels more delicious, and there's been synchronicities, and suddenly something will pop up and I'm like, oh my God, and suddenly it's opened up a new avenue. And I know it's because I've made the internal change. And now physically in my environment, it's reflecting. And if basically the way to change the world is every single human having their own human revolution. And when every single person has that blossoming, and they are the lotus that comes from the bottom of the swamp and has that awakening, enlightened, then the world changes. It's not like, because this new age, this new time we're going in, doesn't have to have leaders. Like all 6 of us on the stage, all of us are going to be trying to connect people back to themselves. It's no longer the time of the age of Pisces where it was some specific leader saying, this is the way and follow me and I'm the one, like some Osho kind of vibe or some kind of Bhagwan. This is now a time, there's natural leadership, there's natural Leos and all of that, but a real leader is going to make you just turn on your own light at this point. And anything else is division. That's why I would say Q is division, because there's not enough to put you back into yourself. There's not enough spiritual. It's too much left brain information, and there's not enough spiritual feminine energy to balance it. It doesn't, and so that doesn't feel godly to me personally.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely that, and we don't need leaders, and we need organization, but the leaders could be like the elders. It can be a community, and the elders don't have to be old. It's just wise people that are sitting around a fire or around a table, just agreeing and being nice in their agreement, not falling out with each other. And I spoke to somebody that said, even if you disagree, you've got an issue because there is that some sort of division. We've got to try and get rid of the whatever it is that we're talking about that one person doesn't like and the other person does like. You've got to come to this agreement that we mediate and we're friends and we shake hands and we're all content. And we can do it in community, but there does need to be some sort of organization. And I think what I've experienced having set up the Freedom Network back in 2020, and it was all systems go for me. Oh my God, it was exhausting. It was like 24 hours.
So what is that, Karen? Could you explain that? Because this is new to me.
Yeah, so I set up the Freedom Network in 2020. When I realized what was going on, I thought, oh my God. And in fact, this sounds really weird. Okay, this sounds really weird, Indy. I was coming down my stairs in my house when I've since moved. And I was like, I can smell something, a bit like the child catcher. I thought, oh, something's going to happen. I didn't know what it was. And I was a little bit bored with my life. I could tick all the boxes, had the family, not happy marriage, but I was married, had the family, had holidays, had a nice house, had friends, all that kind of stuff. And but I wasn't happy. There was this massive void, and I didn't know what it was. I never knew what it was, but I thought, oh, hang on, something's happening. That came along. I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is it. what do I do? And then I started talking to people. My family thought I was absolutely bonkers. They always thought I was bonkers because I'd come along saying, do you know, they want to put microchips in us and they want to do this, they want to do that. And we didn't land on the moon and all these things. And I thought, oh, here she goes again. So when this came along, I remember having a family meeting, which I'd never had in my life, never sat around. So family, 3 kids and my now ex-husband. I've got to tell you what's going on. And I'd learned about the Tropical Disease Act of 1984 or something. I remember because I was doing all this research and I realized they could, knock on your door and take you away. I thought that was new because of what this latest, thing that they
Yeah,
bestowed
yeah.
upon us. So I was like, not so much in fear, but in awareness, thinking, shit, how are we going to get over this? So I went and bought everybody a Bible. Thought, oh my God, they thought she's gone bonkers. I said, well, just don't worry about it. Just have it in your room and some beads, some mala beads and also anything spiritual. And I just told them what was going on. And they said,
Yeah.
yeah, all right, okay. God, Mum, that was more scary than the pandemic. So that was that. And then I realized I've really got a battle on here because they don't really believe me. And then you start talking to friends and they don't believe me. And some people thought, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. But then I thought I've got to do something. So I started doing stuff on the computer as we were all researching. And I found something called Keep Written Free by a bloke called Simon Dolan, which was great. I thought, yes, there's people out there. And I contacted him saying, look, on your website, can you not create a facility so that people in the same area can find other people in that area? And lo
Yeah.
and behold, he did. I think he did it very, very basically, like north, south, east, west kind of thing. Next time I went on, there was a little group down south, and it happened to be Brighton, which is where I was living near Brighton. So I got hold of the people there, and we had our first meeting, and we met and we met and we met, and the numbers started to swell. And then I realised, and then there was all this bitching within the groups, all the stuff that goes on with all these
Classic.
groups,
Yeah, yeah,
all of it.
classic.
Oh, yeah.
Has to
So then
happen.
I thought we need to do this in a bigger way. So I set up the Freedom Network and we did it as a proper thing. My husband at the time was quite happy to go along with it. Actually, at that time, he was saying, yeah, I'll support you in this. And he got involved and we set up a company and a bank account and we did it all properly. That all fell by the wayside. That was just various reasons it just disappeared, but
Yeah.
I kept it going. And all it really was, Indy, was a website. So it was a website called the Freedom Network, and people could go onto the website and say if they're in Brighton, they'd tap in Brighton, and if I'd already had somebody that had contacted me, I would put their email in Brighton or Birmingham or Bermuda or the Bahamas, anywhere in the world. So that person would go straight to whoever else was creating their community. If
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was no, if they said, "Oh, I'm in from Dudley and there's nobody in Dudley," I said, "Well, you are now. You're the person." And some people say, "I don't want to be the person." I said, "Well, you want to make a
Step
difference.
up.
You're going to
Yeah.
take the responsibility." I said, "Just be the link and then grow your group, your tribe, your
Wow.
community, and da da da." So that's what I was doing, and it really took off. It took off a lot, and I think we had like 500 hubs, and I was replying to everybody
500
personally.
hubs.
Hubs
Oh,
all yeah,
and
all
each
over the
hub
place.
obviously having hundreds of people in.
Yeah, hundreds of people, hundreds of people.
Wow,
But
wow.
I didn't have, and then people contacted me. A lot of people contacted me because they wanted me to tell these hubs to do this and tell me these hubs to do that. And I said, no, 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 no. I said it's not about that. I said it's me facilitating this
Movement.
website. Yeah,
Yeah.
this means for people to find each other. I said then they have to take responsibility. I said
Wow.
I will guide them. I'll tell them what's going on in my opinion, and I would say get food, get land, take your kids out of school, look after your in every aspect of society, start taking
Yeah,
responsibility.
yeah, yeah.
And and that's what I think a lot of them were doing, and they were looking to me. Many of them were looking to me for advice, and I'd give them my advice. I said, but it's common sense to me. It's
Yeah.
common sense. But if you haven't been on this page for a long time, you were new to it, you were a bit scared. So that's what I did. And then I realized all these, not all of them, but many of the hubs were having these massive issues, and they were coming back to me, contacting, saying, well, he did this and she did that, and I don't like them, and da 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 da. And I said, and am I your mother? Have I got
Yeah,
to
yeah.
sort it out? Am I your teacher? Sort it out yourselves. Do the inner work. Do this work. It's a spiritual war we're at. Sometimes they weren't grown men. There was a couple of grown men. They were bickering. They were sharing things on one of the channels I had on a Telegram channel, and they didn't like what each other was sharing. So and they'd contact me privately saying, well, he said that and he always says that, and it was like having bloody children.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought, what I do, I said, what I'm going to do, and I did this publicly. I said, look, these two, because people would say on the channel, on the Telegram group, can you not remove these two guys because they're just bickering and it's a waste of energy looking through it. I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put them both into another group called TFN Bickering. So I'm not actually removing them, but I'm going to put them over to bickering. And if anybody wants to go and listen to them, go and join. You can just
Yeah,
jump
yeah.
over there. And that's what I did. So I put them into bickering, and of course I didn't like that. And I thought, well, go and sort it out yourselves because you're just being so totally
Disruptive as well, isn't it? To the
all of
flow.
it. Yeah, to the flow. And then you realize, and this was happening all over the country and all over, probably all over the world, because it's human nature, it's human nature that we fall out, but we're not very good at sorting out our differences and doing that inner work. We get upset, we get angry, we get bitter, we all sorts of stuff. Then people
Yeah, yeah,
saying, oh,
yeah.
you're doing it for the money, you're greedy, you want it for the power. And I said, really, we have to do the inner work. And I thought, I can't do any more for these people now. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to close it down because it was exhausting. I was financing it myself. I was also running conferences. I did, I think, 14 conferences, Uprise and Shine, it was called, all over the place.
Wow.
And I would self-fund that, and then when I'd make the money, I could take my money back out and then put the rest back in to do another one and another one, another one. And I'd pay the speakers as much as we could afford to and what have you. But I was
Yeah.
really trying to get this information out to people. And then I realized I've done my bit now because of all this bickering, because of this divisiveness within each group. I realized we've got a long way to go. I said,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't help people. I can't help people. I can help
Mhm.
people on a spiritual basis. I don't
Yeah.
even know enough about the common. I mean, I know enough about common law, but that is not the answer. Not paying your council tax and and all that. Okay, that's another choice, but that is not the answer because you're still living in this world, and
Yeah,
they will
yeah.
come knocking for council tax or
Hmm.
whatever. And there's more of them. Well, there's not more of them, but the control that they've got, the way they have manipulated the system
Yeah.
and the situation. So, and we're all frightened. We're going to pay our council tax because the police might come around. It's all fear-based again. So we have to really create these, as I've said all along, these alternative societies. And I think that is the way forward. And I think that's going to be happening.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really do. I think it's definitely happening. I know it's happening, in fact.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's I heard Chris say this when you both had your conversation last week that I see like the old system is like an old dead forest, and instead of going down and like chopping it all down and ripping down the old system, we're like just the fresh vines that are going around the old trees, and we have to like just co-create a different timeline next to their timeline in a way. And also like for myself, I'm in a position where no kids, I don't have like no mortgages wrapping me around the neck for the next
yeah,
like 30 years, so I can really give everything to basically like starting to literally I came from, I don't live there anymore, but I was living off grid in Portugal for half a year deep in the mountains, just preparing myself, training myself what it's like to be able to be self-sufficient, learning about permaculture. Like just it's starting to train yourself to live completely different and start to have the
yeah.
dignity to unattach yourself as much as you can from this system, while like even if it's as simple as, I say so many people are like, oh, I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, you could just have loads of water tablets so that if there is a problem, you know how to purify some water. Like these small steps, yeah,
Yes.
will open you up, and then new things come. It's just the tiny steps. Like, have you got enough water? Have you got tins of food? Because we all saw what happened in 2020. We all saw how people were fighting for the toilet roll, for the rice, for the petrol. Like, do you have these small little things, a Bunsen
Yeah.
burner? And when you do that, then you start to like, it's like you're showing the universe, okay, I'm taking a small step. I'm so overwhelmed. This is massive. I'm just one small flame. And I'm trying to, but please show me. I'm having the courage. And then you meet
Yeah.
someone, and then and then it grows. But so you said you had 500 hubs. I saw in one of your other interviews as well that you had like, I don't know if you still have it, but you have schools around the world, or you was helping to build schools.
That was different. Yeah, no, before that, yeah, I set up a charity. Now that was an interesting thing. I set up a charity called Friends of Chima and Kizzy. Kizzy's my nickname, Kizzy Frizzy. And yeah, it happened to be in Sierra Leone for various reasons. But yeah, so we managed to build six schools. I started working with a guy over there, and we got six schools in Sierra Leone, which is
Wow.
in the northern part of the country where they've just been forgotten about.
Yeah.
And that was on the back of, they had a massive mudslide. I can't remember how many years, this, what, 10 years ago, they had a massive mudslide. And the friend of mine, bless her, she's passed now, but she had a charity where she was going around the world, third world countries, feeding children, orphans, which was lovely. And she invited me to go. When I saw the mudslide, I said to her, why didn't you go and help the people there? And she said, "Oh, I've been there, but I will go back. Why didn't you come with me?" And I went there, and we went and fed these kids, and it was again, wow, what a lesson. We went to the slums, where they had no running water, and all these kids had no parents. It was just absolutely awful. And
Yeah.
the way they were being treated, okay, at least they did have adults looking after them, but they look after them with big sticks. All the children over there, they just bash these kids with sticks, and they kind of
Wow.
push them into this room. And we fed them for the day, and it was fine. There was music and they were dancing, and then they came back and had food, and that was great. But then that was it. That was one day of food, and then they were hungry.
Back to it. Yeah.
Back to it. So I thought, I want to help. I'm going to do something. What can I do? I thought I'll build schools. So my mother had passed recently at that time, and she'd left me a little bit of money, and I thought, well, that's what I'll do. My mum would be happy
Wow.
for me, yeah, as a legacy to help, because she absolutely adored children. I thought, well, I'll go to Sierra Leone and build schools. And lo and behold, synchronicity. I was introduced to this guy that wanted to work with somebody who could input some money. And we worked and built these amazing schools. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and then I thought, well, I've done that. Now there's 10 of them. There's actually 10 of the schools, and which is what happens also in Sierra Leone, is once they have qualified teachers, so we put the teachers through training as well. And once they have enough teachers, the government takes over the schools and starts funding them and stuff like that. So that
Wow.
was a big thing. I was really happy
Isn't that
about
so?
that.
Wait, the government can only get involved if, like, an ordinary person can just prove the validity in doing it, and then they'll
Yeah.
come and wow.
That's, but you know what? This is what I learned about charities as well. People said, "Oh, if you've got a charity, set it up as a proper charity, get registered." I said, "All right, I'll do that." Why? What's the benefit? Because I was working just me, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, "What's the purpose? What's the benefit?" And they said, "Well, if you register and you get a number, then you can start applying for grants and get more funding." I thought, "Oh, okay, I'll do that." So I did all that. Bloody hell, what a nightmare that is, filling in all these forms and being part of the charity commission. But I did all that, got the number. Then I was inundated by people wanting money from me or wanting to help by filling in forms to get funding. So I would pay these people like 500 quid a time. They would fill in a form to get a grant, but the grant never came. So I thought, this is again, to me, it's like leeches. It's supposed, people trying
Yeah,
to get more
yeah.
money. So in the meantime, I was funding. Let's put some lights on it. I was actually funding the charity. Once the initial money had gone, I thought I'm going to fund it myself through my own means, which I was doing. And then I got a call from the Charity Commission, and they said, "Oh, we'd like to talk to you about your accounts." And I said, "Oh, what's wrong with them?" They said, "Well, you've paid in too much money and you haven't given it to an accountant that deals with charities. You've just done the books yourself." And I said, "Well, yeah." And they said, "Well, we need to interview with you, have an
Wow.
interview on this
Well,
day." And it was like a 3-hour interview. I said, "That an interview? You call that an interview? It's a bloody interrogation." So, and it was an
the
interrogation. So
audacity,
it
like, yeah,
was, it was, I'm trying to help people. I had
yeah.
no family or friends in Sierra Leone. Friends, obviously, I was building, but I had no attachment to Sierra Leone. It was just, they needed it. It was coming from love. They needed the help. I was there. Let's help them. And this guy, oh God,
So it's trying to prove that you're basically not doing fraud. I'm getting basically, right?
well, yeah, it was. It's yeah, and that yeah. This was the early stages because I tried to transfer some money to America last week, and they wouldn't let me. That took me forever because it's to look after so much fraud, so much dodgy things going on, and I'm sure there is dodgy stuff going on the in the banking system, and sending money. But I knew where I was sending it anyway. That's another story. But so
Yeah.
this going back to this, he wanted to interrogate me about my charity and where the money came from. I said, "Well, you can see where it's come from. It's come from rents because I've got property I let out, holiday lets. You can see everything's justified and then validated and backed up by paper." I said, "Well, yeah, it's all very good, but it's a bit like the Karen Dodd charities." And I said, "Well, yeah, so what? Yeah, so what? Nobody else wants to get involved. I'm happy to do it." He said, "Well, you can't do that." He said, "Because you're registered, we have to know everything that you're doing." And I said, "What do you mean everything?" And he said, "Well, if you go over there, you've got to be careful about the safeguarding if you're sending people over there." I said, "Well, I'm not sending people over there. It's just me. I go over there." And he says, "Well, now it's registered. You need to tell people that you're going there and what you're doing." And I said, "So you're saying if I hop on the back of a motorbike, let's say to get from A to B, I have got to then say who I'm seeing, why I'm
A
going there,
receipt.
what I'm doing, yeah, everything, and get a receipt." And he said, "Well, yes." And I said, "Well, half these people that drive these motorbikes, they can't even write.
Yeah,
This is Sierra Leone. They
yeah,
they
yeah,
they haven't got a pen. They've got nothing." And
yeah,
he said,
yeah.
"Well." So I thought, sod that. I'm getting out of this. I left I left it. I came out of the charity commission, and just managed to get enough money over there privately to do the 6 schools. And then the pandemic came. But whilst I was there, Indy, this is what I also learned when I was over in Sierra Leone. Um, they did a big opening of one of these schools in Rabonka, and they named the school after me, which was really sweet. I didn't want them to, didn't really like
Wow.
them to, but
What's the name of the
they
school? The Karen
it's
School?
called Karen Dodd. Karen Dodd School, and you can see it in Rabonka.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh
What
my
about your
God.
mother? Did you
Yeah.
ever get to name one after her?
No, I didn't actually. I think they might have. No, I need to go over because they've got the 6, but I should have done, shouldn't I? But I didn't know. Next time I went, they said, "Look, Karen Dodd School," and they sing songs to you, Karen Dodd, we love you,
Wow.
and it is really, really sweet. It's absolutely sweet.
She's a
But
messiah
again,
to them.
and anyway, when we were opening, I had my son and my daughter there as well because they were on the part of the charity, and they came over to support me on this occasion. And we sat all day, literally all day in the sun. There was a bit of shade, and all of these people, they're used to it. They were sitting outside the shade, just waters and bananas. That's what we had, and we listened to the 14 different villages there were. This school would it would help 40. All the kids would walk from 14 different villages.
Wow, man.
So we had to listen to every village speaking their local language, their colloquial language, saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And I had to say you're welcome,
Wow.
you're welcome, you're welcome. And it had to all be translated. So it was a very tiring day.
Yeah.
One guy, he said he could speak English. He was well educated, and he was a Muslim guy because he said, "Oh, we thank Allah for bringing Karen over here,
Yeah.
and Allah's, and hopefully Karen will build a mosque and all that." I thought, no, none of that. So, and then
It's getting deep. Yeah.
yeah, and then he said, "We have waited." This blew my mind. He said, "We have waited." The first charity that came back in 1970.
Wow.
1970 came and promised to open a school, and they never came back, and now Allah's brought Karen Dodd, and I was
Wow.
absolutely horrified. I thought, my God, these people were told like 40 years ago that they were going to get a school. So these official charities, they go in,
Wow.
and then they with their 4-wheel cars, and they take pictures, and they're in their khaki clothes, and take pictures and everything. And then they go back and stay in their 5-star hotels and drink wine and beer and do sweet pool. And I thought, this is just awful. And this again was me looking into the side of the charities and how corrupt some of these charities are. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
all
yeah.
of them, but
Definitely
yeah,
the big ones. Definitely,
definitely the big
we're
ones.
exposing the big ones on Company House right now. They're all complicit in the fraud. A lot of the money and our taxes all go into the unaliveness of children and massive human trafficking, satanic
I
agenda.
know.
People always wonder, where does the money go? All these trillions. Well, the answer is very clear, and it's in the underground world and everything that's
Yes.
happening underground in that inner earth, and the blood of children. And we're exposing some crazy stuff right now, and it's just like, so the only way is when literally to be a Karen Dodd, and to like just
To do it individually or come
yeah.
together and do it. Because the other thing I learned from all this is when there is a catastrophe, a natural or
Oh, that's the
unnatural,
worst,
yeah.
man. Yeah, yeah.
But when these come along, the powers that be in these certain countries get very excited because they know they're going to get all the money. So all the money comes into certain countries, bearing in mind the one that I was just telling you about, and others. It comes in, and the people that it's supposed to go to, they don't get it.
No.
The powers that should not be, they get it, and therefore they get an extra car and an extra house and maybe an extra wife and an extra this, that, and the other. And I've witnessed it. I know this, for
Yeah,
people that
yeah.
I speak to, and I've seen it for myself. So, and then like you're saying with the children, when there are these catastrophes and these things that happen, and tents come
Wiping
out,
them
and you
up.
say, yeah, bring the children here, that can't see that can't find their parents, bring all the children here and we look after them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Down the rabbit hole they go.
Yeah.
You never
Well,
see them again.
you can see why they also like a lot of these catastrophes or tsunamis. A lot of them are not even genuine, especially in Haiti. Like a lot of these things,
That's
they're doing
right.
it on purpose to create these situations. I've gone down some deep rabbit holes when it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the amount of kidnap that happens during that time because of the amount of like, chaos which is happening. Entire families from grandma to newborn children are just getting taken into them underground worlds. It's really just unfathomable for the normal person that's watching this. Not going, what are you talking about? I
Yeah.
understand that it's hard to
Yeah.
fathom. But the more you look into it, the more you look into symbology, the occult, what they're doing, it's just undeniable. And so, to help the world, I've always thought this. I've always said to Mum, instead of like sending £10 to like Oxfam or some massive charity, I'd rather just give £10 to that man right there on the street.
Yeah.
It just feels more. At least I can see the money and what happens.
But as long as it's a genuine man on the street, because that's another scam. I'm sure you've seen some of those
Massively, of
scams.
course,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
I was going to say as
yeah.
well, like, you know, being in Sierra Leone, you know, and I'm sure you've traveled to many places. I've only ever left Europe once, and it was this year. I went to India, and I only went to Goa, and I went to Madeshwar, which was super sacred. But Goa is quite westernized.
Yes, it
But
is. It's, yeah. Yeah.
even then, for me, it was so radically life changing to experience. You know, because we're used to, even when you go to Italy, the homelessness is different. You know, you're seeing like people with no legs dragging themselves on the metro, and it's so much more dramatic than in the UK.
Yeah.
But when you go to India and you see the entire family in some kind of like shanty thing, and I think that's what's helped to really, specifically this year, I've just casted off any doubt, any worry, any fear of death. I'm just like, yo, people don't realize like 98% of the world make £2 a week or something like that. Like the how much luck, like we're so lucky and have so much blessings in the UK, but at the same time we also give our soul up for a lot of it, you know. So it's but leaving Europe just it's changed me completely, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I left school. I left home at 17. I legged it. I kind of ran away at 17 because I had itchy feet and I just wanted to go and travel. And yeah, my university is of life. I've not gone to college or uni or anything like that. I've just gone around the world a couple of times, and it has been the best education. Yeah, well, yeah, because you go back, you know, you go, because I'm an old girl now, and when I go back, I think, oh my God, it's terrible. It's just changed. It's changed so much. I cry sometimes when I go back, and I thought I remember coming here 40 years ago, and it was a sleepy little village. There's a beautiful place in Thailand called Hua Hin. And, you know, it was my favorite place on earth at the time. It was absolutely beautiful. And now I've gone back and I've cried because all the Buddhist statues, they're all tumbled down, but all the hotels are being coming up. And then you just look and it's down, you look down the coastline and you could be in Miami or you could be in Spain because it's just the same, apart from the food is better in Thailand. And this is the world over. It's wherever you go. And I you know, it is, the world does change. I get that, and we do need to change, but it's not been changing to the advantage of humanity, really. People are losing their culture, they're losing their traditions, they're losing their way of life. And you know, I think diversity is good, but if we can, you know, people go to Italy because they want to have Italian pizza and they want to throw 3 coins in the fountain or something. You know, people come to England because they want to see the red buses. Do you know, we need to keep these aspects of our culture. I think that's really, really important. But the powers that be do want one big melting pot. They want one global government, and they, you know, they don't want us to have our ancestors. They don't want us to know about our past, our history. They don't want families to be together. They want to separate everybody so that we are more manageable. And it's blatantly obvious.
Yeah, I'm massively into Nostradamus' predictions recently. I've just been and Dolores Cannon's interpretations of them. And I'm deeply studying them right now. And he talks about this time being the turbulent times, and it's an undeniable shift that we're about to go through. We're gonna, you know, if there's dirt at the bottom of this cup, this moment is pure life. Water is going into this cup. This conversation is pure life going. But what's going to happen? The sediment has to come. There's going to be people watch this, no doubt hundreds, which will have so much resistance to what we're saying because this is the lifting of that sediment. But anyway, Nostradamus speaks about one way that the cabal are going to try to, you know, take over is destabilizing all the countries and taking them away from their nationalities, their cultures, by infiltrating them from the Middle East and the rise of the third Antichrist. And we're basically watching it happen.
Watching it happen.
It's absolutely insane.
The fact that we're in it,
trust,
I know.
Nostradamus' information. Like, it's like, did they write this? Is so insane. What he's saying is happening.
I know, and we're in the midst of it. So that's why it's exciting times. When I say, "Oh my God, it's so exciting," people think, "What? You know, you can't afford to pay the bills." Yeah, but it's so exciting because none of that matters really. We're here as our soul, as a spirit. That's what's important. Just look after the body whilst the body is on this, you know, walking this journey. Indigo, we should wind up because we've probably been going for an hour. I know you and I could talk forever. How can people get a hold of you? I'm going to send you this. I can't upload this, as you know, because I've been naughty, but I'll send it to you so you can do whatever you want to do with this. But how can people, you know, follow you, find you, learn more about you, apart from seeing you in London on the 18th?
Yeah, so that's important. Yeah, the 18th of October, the Tabernacle Theatre. What a beautiful prestige place that we're going to be doing this. A place of evolution, a place where we can all just evolve and just learn and just be together, and also to meet Soul Tribe, you know, and to meet people that are going to be like-minded. And so But my main social media platforms is TikTok and Instagram. Really, Indigo Child with 2 O's though, very specific. So Indigo, like Indigo Child, and on TikTok there's 27 at the end of that, and And yeah, I'll find people in the ether and in your dreams, man. It's deeper than social media.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And yourself?
Indeed. Yeah. Well, I'm really not on any social media. At the outset of this, I was on Facebook a lot and speaking out. You know, I never did live things. I never watch the stuff when I record these things. I hate it. I don't like seeing myself on camera. And then some people, you know, tell me, oh, you know, your hair was a mess, or you were doing this, or whatever, or I couldn't hear you. And I thought, really? It's
Yeah,
about the
yeah, yeah.
message, you know. So, and then another friend of mine says, "Well, don't have the video, just have it as a voice." And I said, "Well, people can just, you know,
No, do you know
put."
what? It's so it's so amazing. Alex recently, she's been off camera for a while and she was a bit anxious to go on camera, and then she's gone on camera, and the response has been amazing because people just they see themselves. Like I'm talking
Yeah,
to you, Karen. Karen, my mum's your age. You actually look basically like my mum. It's just I'm seeing my mum. Like it's just like wow. Now I can see how like my mum can draw so much strength from you, and it's better to be
yeah,
able to visually
yeah.
see each other. You know, as much as
It's got
possible.
to be done. I think that's it. And I said it's because we're in service. I say it's like being in divine service. I know it sounds weird, but I can't not do this. I'm compelled to do this. And my now ex-husband, he said, you know, when all this was kicking off, he said, so really you're obsessed, aren't you? And I could have retaliated and said, no, I'm not. I said, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's a vow.
am.
It's a vow we've made.
Yeah,
Once you've
it
made a
is.
vow, and we've made this vow from the eternal past, before we
Yeah.
was even born, and we can feel it so deeply. It is, obsessed might be the word, but it's like
You,
I'll give everything to this.
yeah, you can't not do it. You can't not do it. This is your purpose. And enjoy life and have a great time as well. But you know, this is why we're here to get the message out.
So
And
that's why it's when people are more bothered about the way they look and stuff. It
yeah,
just kind of it's just like you're like the it's just in Buddhism we say the voice does the work of the Buddha. The voice does the work of the Buddha. That's just speak. Just do it, man. Don't care what people think of you.
yeah.
And it's so important actually. That's being your authentic self. That's all we ever ask.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Authenticity. That's the key word. Look, there's a few key integrity, authenticity. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, blessings to you, my lovely brother. I can't wait
Thank
to
you,
meet
Queen.
you. And if you do get a chance, if you're going back to London soon, then maybe do a little vid of the Tabernacle Theatre to show
Yes, yeah, yeah,
people,
yeah.
you know,
We're gonna do
to
that. Me
get
and Alex will
tickets.
do that before, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be brilliant. And people, if they want to find out about it, they go on Eventbrite to get tickets. And
Yeah.
what's it called again? Beyond the
Beyond the
System.
system on Eventbrite, or on Indigo Child with 2 O's on Instagram. In my bio, you'll find it. Yeah. And under this video, because I'll put it under this video.
Brilliant. Blessings. Oh,
Nam
my dog's just
Myoho
joined
Kyo.
me. Okay. Lots of love to you, and I'll see you very soon.
Take care, sister.
Okay.
Ta-ra.
Okay. Bye. Bye.